Hello, everybody. I am back. I am black. We are back, and I am James Lott Jr. And this is In Between the Pages with James Lott Jr. And I'm very excited to have somebody who is a comedian, a fellow podcaster. And I did his show like 10,000 years ago. Like a long time ago, in the early stages of when dinosaurs roamed the earth and they were learning internet. He has a show. It's called Can We Talk First? And we're going to explain to you what exactly, it's a great title, and we're going to totally explain to you what it is. It's a show that kind of show I've never done before, actually, in any other form in my life, and I had the best time. Now I'm going to pronounce his name 5 different ways for you guys, just so you guys have an idea of why they just fuck up his name all the time. Sure. Brandon Morganstein, Brandon Morganstein, Brandon Morgenstern. It's Brandon. Think Brandon. Hi, Brandon.
Woo! You hit it the first time, which that's never happened. I'm usually a third or fourth guess kind of last name.
See, I know how your last name works.
But I've gotten all of those my whole life. Stern, it's never ending.
It's the whole Stein thing. Isn't one German and one Jewish or something like that? Is it like some other kind of weird the way it's spelled?
Yeah, I think Stein is Jewish and Steen is German. I could be wrong because I'm not German.
Right.
I'm pretty sure. I think they were the opposites of Jews. I don't know if that's documented, but yeah, I think it's Stein. Although everyone says Steen, which is weird because Frankenstein, no one says the movie's called Frankenstein. Right.
They don't.
And yet when they see my last name, they're like, this is probably Steen for sure. Like the blind confidence to just go into it.
But that's actually a very interesting thought about perception. I would think Stein first. The way it's spelled, that's the first thing that would come into my mind. But I know not everybody thinks that way. So that's kind of
I don't know how. Because, I already said it. I don't need to repeat my Frankenstein thing. But that's the first time I've said it out loud. And I was like, wow, I felt really proud of myself. I was like, you're right. They don't say Frankenstein.
So repeat it again. Who gives a shit? My show, do whatever you want.
Wow. The freedom I have.
Yeah, I know. We're not used to Freedom Army anymore. That's another story, too.
Hell no.
Another show. But how are you, my friend? How are you?
I'm good. I'm living the dream, you can
see. I know, apparently.
It's quarantined in one of my many homes. I don't know where my staff is, but, I'm glad they're not disturbing us during this.
Thank you. We don't have time for them walking into shots and then talking to you, asking you questions during your interview.
No, it's unprofessional and takes away from your time.
Yes, it does. I'm reclaiming my time. Yes, exactly. Actually, oddly enough, I watched, I didn't know what reclaim my time was. I heard Homegirl say it years ago and became this big thing. But I actually watched a C-SPAN meeting the other day because why not? I'm at home and whatever. And I found it fascinating. And they were talking about, I'm reclaiming my time, sir. And the different language they speak to each other. It's like, I have an inquiry. I'm like, oh my God, it's an inquiry.
This guy's got an inquiry. Hold on.
It's an inquiry. And I want my time back. I'm like, it's so fascinating. I was like, this is really interesting, even though it's very slow and I don't know what to talk about.
As soon as you said it was a meeting, I was like, oh yeah, this couldn't be gripping at all. But you had the time, so why not?
Well, I got plenty of time these days.
That seems like the visual version of reading, is what that seems like.
That's good. I like that. It kind of
using more of my attention than I needed to, or I want to use.
It is kind of the visual version of reading. That is totally like that. It's like a book come to life.
Yep.
In a fun way. Yeah.
No, not at all. It's very nonfiction.
I was going to say this is Harry Potter, but I can't say that right now either.
No.
There's no story right now, too.
Just keep sticking that hole.
I was like, girl, you get all that money? Let's keep your mouth shut. Just keep your mouth shut, girl. Why you gotta keep talking?
It's just, I like the time when you didn't hear from authors.
Yes.
Their words were on the page, and that was enough. Now they have platforms? No. Stick to prose, buddy.
Totally. I love not knowing everything about my celebrities. I don't want to know everything. Yeah. I don't want to know everything. I really don't.
No, I don't. What do I care? I don't. I tried this once. It was only short-lived for about a week. I tried to make a site called Is This News? And I would take articles I saw from the news and I would say, is this a newsworthy article? And it was no.
Right.
I remember one of them was like, Tom Cruise doesn't attend his daughter's wedding. And I was like, is this news? No. Well, who cares? That's their family. I don't care. Also, why would she want him there? He's a huge distraction. She's the bride.
Yes.
That's
Well, I read something years ago, it was a couple of years ago, that People magazine started putting the housewives on the cover because they ran out of trash news of celebrities.
It makes sense. That's why they keep making those shows. We're like, we need more people to focus on.
It goes back to what you're saying. Is that really news? That so-and-so got a nose job?
That's less. That's even less news than the celebrities. It's lower tier news.
I know. When I read it, though, it's like you, I'm not surprised, but I thought, wow, that's where we stoop to sell magazines.
I mean, like the equivalent is like going on TV and being like, this week in news, my uncle refuses to speak to me. Story at 11. It's like, okay, I don't care about your uncle. Give me something that's happening in the world right now.
It's so true. Now, okay, well, because you are a comedian, and right now that's dead. So, like,
Yep.
I was talking to my friends who are comedians. They're like, well, you can't really do anything online because you don't have the interaction. It's kind of weird. So, I mean, so how's that for you? I mean, like right now we're having a good time and we're going back and forth, but like, what is that for you? How's that?
Well, people are resorting to Zoom comedy shows, which I like that, it's kind of like where there's a will sort of thing. But as I mentioned, I don't have this internet connection for it. So I'm not even attempting to get on those. I can't even imagine how bad this video is on your end,
It's fine so far.
All right. But, I'm a writer. So that's really where I'm getting my most outlet for comedy. I've been writing nonstop since being in quarantine. And it's fulfilling for me. I missed stand-up, but, I'm also not trying to die. So,
Exactly.
so it sounds like a decent trade-off.
But it's just so weird that, I work in Hollywood and like it's shut down. Like I have like 5 projects that are just like held up until we go back on stage again. You have these professions where this is what we do. It's dependent on going somewhere.
Yeah.
It's so weird that just all stopped.
It is crazy. And you just saw the people kind of going stir crazy, just like, I have nothing I can do. I was like, well, you gotta. That was the rise of podcasts. Unlike me, I was like, this is the time to put this to bed.
You're right. Everyone, and also IG lives.
There are so many IG lives.
1,000 of them.
Every time I'm on IG, it's like so-and-so's going live. I'm like, okay, keep it to yourself.
Now, I can't talk because I have one too.
No, your name is coming up a lot. And you know what? Don't keep that for yourself. You're doing the Lord's work. But everyone else, disgusting.
Good save, Brandon. Good save. But what's funny is I do mine late at night because there's less people late at night. The daytime, morning, daytime, it's just saturated. Early evening,
oversaturated Instamarket.
Right. It's like, and all the connections are horrible, of course, because everybody's on at the same time. You can't see nobody, and it's like everybody's fuzzy. But I decided to do late night. I did it as a joke, kind of. I was like, I'm gonna come on when I feel like it late at night around 10 o'clock, and I'm gonna have a drink, and I'll be in bed.
Got a drink in, you're feeling.
Yeah, that's what I do all the time. And then it became this thing where now I'm at 70 episodes. I'm like, how did I do 70?
I mean, that's impressive.
I know.
You're coming up on my own podcast, so now I'm getting competitive. What's this guy doing? He got to 70 already.
It's crazy, Brandon. It's crazy. Like, and my friend's like, wow, James, you got drunk last night, didn't you, on air? I'm like, it's late night.
Who cares? It's James Lott Jr. After dark.
Oh my God, it's so funny. But anyway, so I do, but it's just, I feel like the rise of Zoom things. I mean, I've had to modify my interviews because we're all going for the same people. So how many times do you want to see one person on 5 podcasts in the same week? I mean, it's like what else can they possibly fucking say? I mean,
that's when you went to the bottom of the barrel and you scraped me off.
I was like, 2 last people I would ever interview. Brandon Morganstein is one of them. Yes, exactly.
I think back in the day, I was on the strangest podcast. Quite queer, even this podcast was.
I love you. That's why I called you. That's why I mentioned you. I do.
It was a blast. I'm currently having a blast. Nope. I was gonna say active blast.
I was like, Brandon, it's morning time. We ain't there yet. Well, I guess we could be there morning time.
There's a reason we're here.
Yes. Yes. That leads into his podcast called Can We Talk First, which is hilarious and it totally means something. Now it's on hiatus at the moment, but I want you to explain to people in your words.
Absolutely. I used to have this down to a science, but now I'm feeling more loose about it. Basically, the podcast is that each week, myself and a variety of wonderful guests will watch just the story of an adult film, none of the nudity, none of the naked stuff. As soon as there's nudity, cut, and we critique it like it was an actual film. We do 2 of these per episode, and then in between, it's just a regular interview, whatever I feel like talking about.
Yeah.
I just needed a gimmick to hook them in.
No, but it was a great gimmick. And that's why I actually contacted him back and they said, I want to be on your show. I said, I came to him. He didn't come to me.
I couldn't believe it. I was like, yes. I don't have to book someone. This is amazing. They're coming to me.
You know, well, okay, so because now you know what I go through a day. Booking is actually sometimes the hardest part of the job.
It's a nightmare. Especially with my podcast. Because I have to go, hey, would you like to come on my podcast? And go, yeah, absolutely. And I go, I'm glad you said yes. Now I have to explain to you what we're going to do, and I'm going to let you re-answer. And luckily, everyone said yes. Only people who knew about it in advance were like, yeah, I can't do that. I had a rapper I asked to do the podcast, and he was like, I don't know if this is my image. And then I listened to one of his songs, and it was just like insane. It's so dirty, like dirtier than we get on the podcast. And I was like, okay, but that's okay. But this isn't okay. All right.
Sure. Okay. That's so weird.
But other than that, everyone said yes for no reason.
You've had some actually fun people on. I've listened to over the years. You had some fun people. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, for me, I thought it's something different, and it really isn't that dirty. Like, it really isn't. Like, our episode wasn't that dirty. We laughed a lot. No. We talked about some stuff. We talked about some history and things on our show. I mean, like, it wasn't. I mean, it's actually. Take out the other stuff, take out whatever. It's still a podcast. It's just a podcast.
Yeah. I mean, I've done, and this is crazy to talk about for how ridiculous of a concept it is, but I've done some work on my podcast I'm actually really proud of, which is not something I thought I would do when starting a porn podcast. Yes. I thought it was all shits and giggles, but I'm proud of some of the episodes I've done.
Well, have you learned some stuff?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've learned, first of all, I've become way more comfortable with just, porn just feels like something you shame watch, And sure, I mean, it comes up in conversation occasionally, but like it's still like a taboo kind of shame thing. But everyone watches it. I mean, yes, I've had guests who don't, and then I get to show them their first porn experience, which is another fun time. But it kind of just normalizes it in a way. I mean, granted, we're only watching the stories. I can't vouch for what the podcast would take if I just kept going with the videos. But yeah, I've talked so much I forgot the question.
No, you answered it correctly. No, but it's interesting because I always tell people all the time. Sometimes I started a left-handed podcast for left-handed people, and people are like, "That's interesting." And actually, I'm learning so much out of it. I'm having a great time doing it, and people are actually responding. And the point is, you just never know your concept actually may translate. That's kind of thing. You have an idea?
I can't believe how many people listen to this. I thought it was totally, I don't know. I just needed a gimmick. But I do need to say, I don't hope this doesn't cause a rift between us, but I am starting an ambidextrous podcast.
Hey!
I will take yours down.
See, it's a two-handed people. Always a two-handed people. Always. I'm still in my right mind.
On your left podcast.
My left podcast. But seriously, I think it's one of those things that you never know an idea that you have that it may actually work. That's kind of the bottom line. That's the example for both of us. Is you have an idea, try it out. So see what happens. And it may not work, but it may do something.
Yeah, I mean, I kept to a strict format, but I mean, between videos, it was so loose. Like I got to do whatever I wanted and ask the questions I wanted. And like, one of my favorite episodes is that I had one of my best friends. I don't even know how long, over a decade we've been friends. He's a trans man, and I knew him before he transitioned. And when he announced it to me, I was like, oh, I didn't have a podcast at the time. I just recorded audio interviews on my phone. And I was like, I don't know what I'm ever going to do with this, but I just recorded interviews. And then one day I had him on the podcast. Yes, we watched trans porn. And then afterwards, I played the interviews and we responded because now he's like a couple years into his transition. And it was just, I don't know, it was crazy. Like I didn't expect to do that on a porn podcast.
No, not at all. I mean, you have a wide variety of guests. You do. My thing is, did you always want to be a podcaster when podcasts came out? Did you always think, I want to do a podcast one?
I will say that in the early boom of podcasts, I was in high school and there weren't many around. Like the only one I'd heard of was Kevin Smith's podcast. He was one of the first ones.
And Adam Carolla.
Yeah, Adam Carolla as well.
Podfather. Come on.
The Podfather.
Yes.
Yes. And when I was in high school, me and a childhood friend did like a 6-episode and then we quit podcast that I still have on my computer. It is horrible. It is unlistenable, but it was, I had to have been over 10 years ago. I mean,
yeah,
probably like 12, 15 years ago. I tried a podcast and ever since then I love to hear myself talk.
Well, isn't it funny that now podcast is like a business card? Everybody has one now.
Yeah, exactly.
I was a podcast, before I'd be like, I have a website. Now I'm like, I have a podcast.
I think Neil Brennan, I may be crediting this joke wrong, but Neil Brennan said like in a year, licenses are going to have like a date of birth and podcast name on it.
My joke is true.
We all got one.
We all got one. My joke is always like after every, speech or thing I go to, like, you follow me at James Lott Jr. and also me a platform. Like, that's the thing we all have to say.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. It's like everyone's
thank Brandon. So anytime someone in real life goes like, "Oh, thanks, Brandon," I'm like, "Yep, Twitter and Instagram. You can follow it anywhere."
Yeah. It's like
I don't post, but I'm on.
I love Neil Brennan, by the way. Actually, I love him. He's very funny. And a good writer. Very funny, good writer. Mm-hmm. Good comedy writer. But no, yes, it's just, with all this COVID and seeing all of my friends who never did one in their life, they're all like doing one now. And they are calling me going like, I have a problem getting guests. I said, no, I said booking really is, going back to that. Booking really is the hardest part. I mean, doing the show is fun. Actually press record. It's fine. Mm-hmm. It's all the pre-stuff that comes before that. And like the scheduling. And I think it's hilarious when I go, well, I'm kind of busy. I'm like, doing what? You have no job.
We're in quarantine right now.
Quarantine. You have no job.
I'm glad that I'm not booking people now because I would get furious if someone said no. I'm like, really? Because you have all the time in the world. And you're busy?
Right. You're on TikTok all day. So what the fuck are you talking about?
You're scheduled to be in the kitchen at 9? Well, I mean, what are you talking about?
Totally. So it's very strange, but it is a whole scheduling, making everybody work. Can you do this? And it's a lot of work. People don't understand that. That's one of the hard parts.
And you have to put yourself out there. I mean, that's my least favorite part. Yeah. Hey, man, big fan. Love if you could come on my little podcast. It would mean a lot. It's just, I hate it. I really hate it.
So I've been doing this for like 10,000 years. And I've had 10,000 guests. So I've been turned down, like straight up turned down. Like they were like, no, 4 times. And I had one guy agree to do it. Mm-hmm. But I guess he looked me up and decided. And he was like, I changed my mind. That's what he told me. I was like, oh, changed your mind? Okay. But the first time I got turned down, I wasn't really hurt because I knew it was like a chance to say no. Because you're like, again, I'm starting out. I'm a little baby, trying like, do my podcast. They're like, who the fuck are you? But then as I started getting popular, now it's getting easier, obviously. But I said, one guy told me, I'm not really doing interviews right now. I just don't feel comfortable doing them right now. But then I saw him the next day on an interview. So it's like, nope.
I would cut that person off.
I did.
You're out of my life. You've been voted off this island, buddy.
You're dead to me. Did that. But I had one guy who was just so funny. And I don't want to out him. I want you so bad. I don't want to out him. But let's just say a washed up, old time, I can't even say rapper because that's a loose term. Somebody who had a hit back in the
Someone who's rhymed before.
Yeah, who's rhymed before. Back in the late 80s and had some success, in air quotes, folks. A friend of mine, we have mutual friends. I interviewed the other person who was the other person who did it he found NWA. It was Alonzo Williams. He founded NWA, and I had him on the show. I love him to death. He's so great.
Yeah, that's a hot guest.
It was a good guest. I'm not confusing that way. It was good. I got him during the time the movie came out, so I got him at the right time. He had written a book. It was all kismet. So he's like, oh shit, interview so-and-so. I want to out him. I want to out him so bad. You know who you are if you're watching it. He goes, go ahead and contact him. So I contacted him, and he was like, no, thank you. I'm busy. So I went back and told homeboy, and I was like, busy doing what? He had one hit. I was like, oh my God. I was like, you said it. I didn't say it. You said it.
He's like, yeah, I have to go back to my job in retail. Unfortunately, I'm unable. I don't have enough sick days to do your show. I'm so sorry.
But it was so funny. But hearing Alonzo's reaction was hilarious, more hilarious than my own reaction. He was like, he only had one hit. Like, what's he doing? He's not touring nowhere. Like, why would you do your show? I'm like, I know. But he was somebody that I admired, and I did like that hit. And I was like, wanted to have him on the show. I thought it'd be kind of cool to have him on the show, and he just threw me off.
I once had a guy, I did a show with him. He was another comic. I did a show with him. We hit it off. And I was like, you know what? Hey, man, you want to do my podcast? He's like, yeah, absolutely. And then I did my second ask. So it's about a porn. And then he said yes. Oh. And then we're getting up to the day we're scheduled to record. And the day before, my friends are in town. I take them to Pasta Sisters. And in walks the guy that I'm doing the interview with the next day. And, I give him a head nod. I don't know if he sees me, but I'm with my friends, and I don't know. I'm not a guy who's like, hold on a minute. And then I don't know. I just hate seeing, like, I go over the table, buddy, hey, man. I just gave him, like, an acknowledgement, like, oh, man. And then I hit him up later that night, like, oh, so funny running into you at Pasta Sisters. Are we up for tomorrow? Gone. Disappeared. Just nowhere to be found. Never responded.
That's
and I was like, all right, you're dead to me.
It's weird. It's weird. That's weird. But I do love Pasta Sisters, so I do like them. They're good.
Place.
They're good.
I get no revenue from them, but
there's no endorsement deals. There's no sponsorship.
I'm not the pasta brother.
Pasta brother, pasta cousin, pasta uncle.
No, I'm not the pasta dentist.
So I was to the one in Koreatown. I think it's Koreatown.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's on Pico or something. I can't remember, Olympic, whatever. I went to that one. They have several, but I've been to that one.
Yeah, they have two. I mean, who needs to fucking plug Pasta Sisters? But I was in the smaller one.
The smaller one, too. It was the smaller one. It was busy. It was good. I enjoyed it. But anyway, enough about that place. But yeah, no, it's really weird because I've had, maybe over the years, too, I've had maybe two people cancel at the last minute. And then we never rescheduled. Just never rescheduled. It's like, okay, yeah. I can't do it. I'm like, all right, interviews in an hour. Okay, I guess, okay. And they just go away. Like,
it's insulting.
I think it is. Actually. I
put you in my calendar. Why wasn't I offered the same respect?
My friend goes, if I was Oprah, you wouldn't do that to me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I could do the voice. I won't, but I could. It's her thing.
I love it.
I'll put something under your fucking seat.
And you get a car, and you get a car. Yeah, I can do that too. I can do that too, folks.
There's a bag of almonds.
I love it. Yeah, if we were Oprah, you wouldn't do that to us. So, but I found that was actually that. And if I have to do any editing. Usually I don't. If I have to do some editing on something, that's always hard afterwards. You're like, oh, I got to edit this thing. But most of the time it's fine. I mean, every once in a while I get some things. Like there'll be a sound issue or something. I have to like fix it sometimes. But other than that, it's okay.
My first year I would say my first 2 years of the podcast, I heavily edited it. I was so paranoid about wanting a good product out there that I would spend hours. Like I kept whittling down the time I would edit it. But when I started, it was like a multi-day, like, all right, I've done enough for today. I have to move on. Wow. I'd move every pieces around. I would cut out things people said that like made them look stupid or I just thought was offensive and I didn't want on the podcast. Like I had a guest who was saying some crazy disparaging things about women. And I was like, I just don't want this on my show. So I just cut it out. Yeah. And I would spend so much time. And then right near where I had to take a COVID hiatus, I was finally like, I'm going to record the episodes, put it on Patreon. I'm not going to do edits. I'm going to live stress-free. And then COVID hit and no more stress-free. All stress, all the time.
All stress, all the time. No, I tell folks, okay, come on my show. I go, I'm not editing shit. So just like whatever you say, you say. But I usually only edit if like a huge sound thing happens, or just something weird that just happens. Then I'll usually edit it. But other than that, or there's too much silence. Like one day I couldn't stop the recording, and so they kept saying some stuff. I go, shut up! You're still on camera. Shut up! You're still on camera. And they're saying so like, fuck that, man. I'm like, okay, so I had to edit all that out clearly. The last like 2 minutes of that, because I'm like, my thing is stuck. My mouse won't work. It's stuck.
Yeah. No, please.
Yes.
And you can cut this out. But here's my opinion on the Jews.
I'm leaving it in, bitches. I'm leaving it all. Good luck to you. Good luck to you. Nice knowing you.
Another thing.
Yes, nice knowing you. Yeah. I'm like, it's good. I'm like, you want to say it, and you say it. I'm like, at the end,
That's all you.
I'm on disclaimer. Hi. Yes, they're not longer the host. Yeah, we do all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, that's on you. But I tell you, I'm not editing shit. Like, you say it, you say it.
Yeah. You fucked up. I don't know. Don't talk like that. If you don't want to be on record.
Don't be crazy person. We'll be okay. Be crazy.
I was too comfortable. You shouldn't talk like that when you're comfortable.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like,
sorry.
We should be that familiar. We should be that familiar. Yeah. Sorry, that's not. We don't do that. Is there? Do you have a dream guest to do that podcast with? Is there anybody you're like, I'd love to have them on the show talking this subject and see what movie they pick?
That is tricky to ask because there's dream people I'd love to talk to.
Okay.
But I mean, granted, I would love to watch the setup of porn videos with them, of course, but I don't, in my head, I'm just like, I would feel so embarrassed. This isn't my answer, but to be like, I got Jerry Seinfeld on the podcast. Jerry, all right, we got to start this video. And he'd be like, what are you doing? But I do have dream. Let's say Jerry as an example. I would love to have a Jerry Seinfeld or someone who's had a parody porn made about them. I would love to have them. Seth Rogen.
Zach and Miri are one of my favorite movies. Zach and Miri.
I love that movie.
My favorite. I've seen it like 20 times. Set in Pittsburgh. Hey, Pittsburgh. That I just love that movie so much. It'd be funny to have him on there.
Yeah, he would be excellent. In podcast lore, there's a guy. I hope he's a good guy. I don't know, but we discovered a British porn star named Marcus London in one of the episodes, and he was so funny in the videos. And I had this one guest. I would always bring him back. David Garcia, shout out. Don't know why, but he can have it. Love that guy.
Sure, why not?
Yeah, I love that guy. But we discovered Marcus London in one of these videos, and he was so funny. Like the first video we saw him in was like this babysitter video, and in a lot of these videos, it's like the dude's the aggressor, and it's so creepy, and it makes me uncomfortable. And I don't like it. But in this video, the babysitter was the aggressor, and he would be like, "Oh, this isn't right. Please, this isn't right," and it was just so funny. And I was like, man, I always said if I got to episode 100, I needed to have that guy on the podcast.
Wait a minute. Have you had any porn performers on your podcast? Or do you have them?
Yes, I have. I've had, who do I have? I had Elena Koshka, Kate Kennedy, and Logan Pierce on the podcast. I had Chester, who's a porn extra. He's in a bunch of films as just a guy who jerks off but not performs. Right. And I had a porn director, Andy Zane, who's mysteriously off social media now. So I don't know what happened there, but he just dropped off the earth.
What a trip. You have an interview with him at least.
Yeah, I need to have him back. But yeah, I mean, it's been a blast. Here, I'm not gonna, back myself into a corner if I want to start the podcast up again. But I had Elena Koshka on. She was my first porn star, and I asked her all the porn questions I could think of. I got all the answers to the questions I always wondered. Andy Zane helped with that as well when I interviewed him. And I got all these answers. Then when I had Logan Pierce on, I asked the male porn star questions I had. And then, I had Kate Kennedy on. And I had a great episode with Kate Kennedy, but I was like, I really burned all these porn questions off. I don't and all these women and men have answered, how did you get into the industry so many times. It's like, I have no new questions that you haven't answered. I hate giving people questions they've answered a million times. It's not the experience I want to give them. But yeah, I've had them on. It was awesome. But yeah, also, this is another thing about the hiatus. I just want to say, couldn't be more glad that during all this civil unrest, I'm not like, all right, and now we're about to watch some porn.
Yeah, I know.
I'm so glad I'm on hiatus.
Yeah, you actually,
Couldn't have picked
you're right. No, you're right about that. Right now, it's not the time. It's not the
I
time.
mean, like, what was I supposed to do? Like, this week we're going to talk about police brutality, so we'll watch cop porn. Like, that's so cringe.
It
That's
would be.
so cringe.
It would be, yes. We're going to watch racial porn now. We're gonna watch
Yeah, exactly.
where
Like,
the white folks are in charge. Yeah, we're going to do that.
all right. As we all know, Black Lives Matter, so we'll be watching ebony porn this week.
Exactly.
Like,
Well, hey, no, hey,
what?
Pornhub did that. They were like, we're only highlighting ebony porn. It was like something. I was like, okay, Pornhub, okay, sure.
I mean, Pornhub doesn't. I don't actually. I'm not going to speak positively of Pornhub. I have no reason to. But I have seen things in the past of them donating money.
Yeah.
So I mean, there probably are an evil corporation. Every
I mean,
corporation.
I'm sure.
I wouldn't doubt in my mind they're an evil corporation, but they've donated in the past. But Black Lives Matter, so we're showcasing black porn is insanity.
So
That's
weird.
what are you doing?
That's
not helping.
It's not. It was so. Well, remember COVID came out. They're like free premium for a month or whatever. It's like,
Yeah.
okay. I mean, I guess that's cool. I guess.
Okay, you've killed 5 minutes of my quarantine, but I still got a lot of time.
It doesn't.
Thanks.
It was just their announcement, and they were attention grabbing. Obviously, what they want is attention, of course. But I'm like, but nothing will go to your site. You probably don't need attention. Not like you're like get 5 followers a month. You mean you have
Also, who needs Pornhub Premium?
I don't. Yeah, I don't.
I've never been on Pornhub. Been like, I wish there was more.
And I was like, what is that? Is that a higher tier of porn? I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
We finally got HD, but for a price.
if you want it in 720 or higher, 1080,
Yeah.
premium is what you get it in. I don't know either.
In premium, you get director's commentary. Like,
they come to your house. I don't know. I don't understand what's going on. I don't know.
They put on a live show.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand.
No.
But that you make a good point. Maybe it was time for your podcast to take a little rest, a little respite during this time period. Until folks are.
And yeah.
I don't have to finish that sentence. Until they're.
Yeah, until the world's right, which means I'll never start my podcast.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, at this point.
I mean, when's going to be a good time? Never. Like, what systemic racism is gone, I will return to porn.
But that's a good point though. It's like, okay, so what if you do have a TV show or a podcast? So they like for even some of us, like I do some of the soap stuff. We're kind of like, well, life has to get back to something. I mean, obviously you won't go back to the way it was before fully, but it reminds me of 9/11. I remember 9/11 happened. Everybody like comedy was out for a while. Like you couldn't be funny all of a sudden. Everything was no irony, nothing. But eventually it did come back. So I have to believe this all. I mean that some of the shows that I do too, they're gonna come back because people are gonna.
Yeah, I mean things are gonna come back. Things are slowly coming back. Like you saw that. I don't know if this is real, but they said that the new Jurassic Park movie is going back into production.
I heard that.
So they clearly just like we don't give a fuck.
Yeah, I know.
I saw a funny meme about it. Like, there's nothing better in spirit of Jurassic Park than something reopening before it should.
Oh my God, it's so funny. Yes. Oh my God, I didn't even think about that. That's so ironic.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
I mean, the world's moving on. I just, I'm not someone who would, I'm not the face of change, but I don't think that my voice on a porn podcast is necessary at the moment. And
here's a question for you, Brandon. Do you have any other podcast ideas you might want to do if you put this to bed for a while?
That's been what I'm kind of ruminating on. I want to come back to podcasts. I miss doing it, especially now that I don't edit it like a crazy person. I can actually enjoy it and think fondly. But right now I'm ruminating on ideas. Like some will pop into my head, and then I think like long term, like is this something I want to do? And nothing's settled yet, but I'm still keeping it in my head because I want to come back and I want a podcast that I will enjoy doing week to week. Yeah. Sometimes I'm sitting mid podcast and I have a blast with all my guests. Some are duds. That's that's not my fault. But
Oh,
I'll be watching the videos.
let's go there. Let's go there for a second. Okay.
Okay.
Look, okay. So I'll start first. So I did I've done 8,000 shows or whatever.
Mhm.
I did a show once where in pre stuff, they seemed, upbeat and great, and we're going to do this. The camera started rolling, mic turned on, crickets. One word answers.
Mhm.
Just bugged the shit. Glasses on, wouldn't take them off. One word answers. And I was like, this is going to be the longest interview. I can't even talk going. It's only been 2 minutes. It's only been 2 minutes. And I don't know what happened. And like literally, we limped along in that interview. I was
Right.
professional. I limped it along. I did way more talking than he did. It wasn't even about me.
Can I ask you, when you're in that situation, is there any part of you, like, how do you get out of it? Like, I do stand up, so like I had one of my final episodes, which is kind of depressing. My guest wasn't like you said, they weren't talking. They were kind of awkward and weren't forthcoming. And much like a stand-up does when they're bombing, I'm like, God, this is not going well. Like, I was just like calling it out mid-interview because that's just what a stand-up would do. Like, you have to acknowledge that sometimes it's awkward, and so I would acknowledge with my guest that it was awkward. So, and there's a part of me, not with that interview, but I've had guests before then that we could talk about that was just not giving me what I wanted, and I was like, I fought the instinct to mock them.
Yes, yes.
So I was wondering what you do. Like, that guy's in sunglasses. Like, did you start mocking him? Did you start like, or did you just lay into it? Man, you're really giving me nothing, man. Or you were just more professional?
Yeah, that's really funny because you're right. There's I'm smart ass. My brain wants to go and be smart ass. But I'm like, but like for this interview, it was for AfterBuzz TV, so I was at a network representing the network.
Right.
James Lott Jr. So I there are some liberties that I could go. I knew I could get away with. So I kind of did your number. I was kind of like, I can't believe I'm seeing you with the coolest guy in the room. I mean, I just can't believe it. I'm like, you're just the coolest guy in the room. And he would just smile, the shades off, and I go, okay. I said, and then what I find myself doing is I will overcompensate. I will start talking more because if not giving, I go at the very least, they're gonna watch at least hear me say something, I guess, on that topic, whatever I'm gonna talk. I may go, well, I think I said to him one. I think I said that to him. I go, because he's sitting across from me. I go, I see you're a man of few words, so I'm going to tell you what I think about the situation. And then I just took over. And so it's kind of professional, but I kind of let him know you're not giving me shit. So I'm like, it's kind of like, what the fuck's going on here? And then another interview was like that. I said to the guy, so are you a shy person in real life? And then I tried to turn it that way. And actually, it got him to talk a little more. So I thought, well, maybe that's what it is. Maybe they get really nervous.
Yeah.
You and I do this stuff, and it's like, whatever. But I think for them, because we're in control, you and I are in control, they don't know what we're going to do to them, I guess, in their brain. So something was like, oh, but the one guy was like, he started talking about it. Like, oh, I did an interview recently. The guy was so nervous. He kept drinking wine. So he kept going to the glass and going to the glass and going. And so I had to actually not show the video.
Wow.
So on Zoom, it records both. So folks at home, you don't know, this records video and audio. So I just put out the audio because I said, I don't want him to look so, I told him, you were drinking wine so nervously the whole episode that it wasn't even comical. Like, it wasn't even like comically drinking wine nervously. It was like, you could tell.
It wasn't from Mom.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. It was bizarre, Brandon. It was bizarre how much he kept going to the glass and going to the glass and answering.
Somebody get this, please. A refill?
Well, then at one point, somebody did walk in the shot and was like, "What's some more wine or whatever?" And I was like, "Okay, we're not having all this on camera." Like, I was just like, I'm not. She was wearing.
I can't have the video of this.
Yeah, she was wearing short shorts and bleach blonde. I was like, we're not doing all that. So I said, I'm releasing the audio only, just for your protection, because I just feel like because the actual audio was fine. Like, you couldn't tell he was drinking so much.
Yeah.
So I had that.
One of the tricks of my podcast that I set up very early on, and when I designed my format, it was that, I had the idea for the commentary on the videos, but a lot of guests come in and they're nervous. Some don't know me and some aren't comfortable. So what my format was, and you can kind of see this in a bunch of episodes with first time guests, you know, they start off, they're a little shy. Because some people, I gave them the first podcast they were on,
Yeah.
and they were shy. And when the first video starts, you can hear I'm the one talking for the majority of it, but they get more comfortable during the first video because you don't really know what you're coming in for. Oh, we're commentating on porn? Like what?
Right.
So then you hear me commentating on it, and then they hear what I'm doing, and then they start adding on to it. And then when we get to the interview portion, we're already like friendly and warmed up because we just spent the past 20 minutes roasting these people that arguably don't deserve it, but that's
Yeah.
but I form a bond. We're laughing. Like, so I'm always making fun of the videos, and I'm doing it to get in with the guests. And I would say 9 times out of 10, it works. By the time we're in the interview portion, we're already friendly. We've made each other laugh, so there's that understanding. And then if you go to the second video, then we're equal. We're equally making fun of it because they understand what we're doing here now.
Yeah. A good point. I mean, for me, a lot of times, if I get time with my guests before we start, I try to talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to them. Let's hang out. Let's talk for a little bit, maybe 5-10 minutes. Like if I could tell they're a little nervous, and when no, I'm safe. I'm not here to. I know some shows do this. I don't do this. I'm not here to bully you, ambush you. I'm actually here to have a good time. I want a good show. We're here to entertain. Like it's literally that's all I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to get at you. I'm not trying. Like seriously, we're gonna be okay. And so I think you're right. We start talking to them, joke with them. Sometimes I'll have music on, get the music going, and get them all loosed up, and then we start talking. Then they're fine. They're totally fine. I was so nervous at first, but it's like a conversation with you. I'm like, trust me, I'm a fun person. It's not. I'm not trying to get at you. That's just not. To me, that's not my brand, and I don't really doesn't do anything for me. I'm like, I want the best of you to come out. It makes me look good. Makes my podcast. There's a million podcasts out there.
Exactly.
There are millions. I want them to smile.
Exactly. I don't want to make a memorable experience. I want them to walk out being like, I had a great, we laughed a bunch, I had a good time.
I agree.
Yeah, that's all I could do. And I wish I was like you. My pre-podcast talking game was pretty weak if I didn't know the person. You know, I was a nice host. I was like, you want beer? Like, whatever you want, I got it. But, you know, sometimes if it was a guest, like I remember when I had the porn director for the first time, I was very nervous. I was like, this is make or break for the podcast. Like, this is my first foray into like a porn person. And I was really nervous. I'm sure I gave that guy nothing before recording. But as soon as I hit that record button, your boy turned on.
Okay.
Welcome to the show. Wow, I'm a morning zoo radio.
No, it's true though. There's times I'm sitting and I go, James gonna do the countdown. And I'm sitting there and like, what am I doing? What's going on? What show are we doing? What's going on? Hi, I'm James Lott Jr. Welcome to James.
Hey.
I just turn right on. It does.
You just snap into it.
You do.
I mean, it's the same thing you see comics like, you know, before they go on stage, you know, not, you know, everyone's different, but a majority of them are just quiet in their heads. Like they're looking over, you know, their set and stuff. They're writing jokes down. They're like, oh man, about to hear some depressing shit. They come on, hey, how's everybody doing tonight? It's like, good for you, bro. You just turn that shit on.
I'm gonna ask you because I ask everybody this because one of my dreams, I'm gonna make it happen. Maybe if it comes back, I want to do stand up. I want to do at least one show.
You'd be great at it.
I will. Everybody says that. I'm like, and I'm scared shitless. I mean, I'm a pretty fearless guy. I do music, I do TV, I do everything else.
You do everything.
I do everything. I do a lot of stuff. And so, but stand up something. I have a million of you guys are my stand up friends. I have a lot of people who do stand up in the business, and it just scares me shitless. But I still want to do it. So I just want to ask you, because I've heard so many different answers to this. I'm going to ask you the question if I ask you, what's it like bombing for you? What is that like?
Whew, it's not fun. But I mean, bombing is not fun at all. I haven't had a horrific bombing experience. I mean, I've had silence, which isn't great. Wow. But I mean, in terms of major bombs, like, you know, I haven't had anyone boo me or been like, get the fuck off. I haven't had any of that.
Thank God.
But in terms of silence, like, you just have to acknowledge it. That's when it feels awful. You're like, oh God. And then your brain starts scrambling. and you think like, oh, if they bombed at this, you start analyzing what you have to do next. You're like, okay, well, is this going to work or is this not going to work? And you need to make that choice for yourself. And a veteran comedian, not saying that I am, but a veteran comedian will go through their archive of bits they know in their head, and they'd say, all right, they're not responding to this. I'm going to acknowledge it. So there's a level of comfort between me and the audience. So they, because they're a part of it.
Yeah,
they're not laughing. And yes, there are bad crowds, like if they're not paying attention, but most crowds, they come there to laugh. They want to laugh. So you have to acknowledge with them like, all right, that didn't work. Maybe I'll get you with this next one. Don't say that. That's the one. Don't say, maybe I'll get you with this next one. But a veteran comedian would go through the bits and be like, all right, this isn't working. I need to pivot and do this. But sometimes I've done this. I had this show once, and it was at a I don't know why this matters, but it was at like a really like feminist art gallery.
Okay.
And I was killing it. I was absolutely killing it for the first, I think it was a 10-minute set, and I killed it for the first 8 minutes. And then I did this joke that got nothing from them. And I had them eating out of the palm of my hands. Yeah. And then at the 8-minute mark, I hit them with this joke that just didn't work. And I said to myself, all right, I could do a different bit that could win them back, but because of what just happened, it's not, I don't have enough time to really win them back anymore. My set's wrapping up. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to fucking nosedive this fucking set. And I'm just going to do another one they're not going to like. And none of my bits, I'm very conscious of my bits. Nothing I do is, whatever, that's a whole different argument. Can you do comedy? It's PC. Like, yes, but none of my bits, I don't punch down in any of my bits. So none of my bits are offensive in that way. But I do know bits that certain people are going to like and certain people aren't going to like. And I just nosedived with some toilet humor.
And I'm going to go down all the way. I'm going to go all the way.
And I loved it. And I made friends with some of the other comics because they watched me have that moment where they saw that I could do stand-up. And then they saw me have a moment where I had to make a choice. And I chose to crash.
That's hilarious. I think that's hilarious, actually.
You have to embrace the bomb.
Well, I always heard that. I mean, since comedy is subjective, that you may have a good joke, but it just depends on what night. It's all subjective to the night people are having,
absolutely,
where you're at, the kind of crowd, the crowd that evening. I mean, like it could be who walks through the door. I mean, I guess it's all. So it's kind of. I guess you can't really think about it very much because it's just you're going crazy.
No, there's a couple more philosophies on that. This isn't mine. I heard this while listening to a different podcast. I can't even credit who said it or where I heard it, but it's in the back of my head that some comic heard very early on, like you have to bomb, let's say 50, it's probably way more. You have to bomb like 500 times before you become a good comic. So anytime they would go out there and bomb, they would check it off. Like there's another one. I'm getting closer to becoming a good comic. I think that's a great outlook to have on it because it's going to happen. No one's the perfect comic. I mean, it takes decades even to become the perfect comic. So that's a good outlook to have. Also, some people at open mics aren't well populated. And it's mostly by comics who aren't really paying attention. And yeah, the occasional like person from out of town will stumble in because they're like, oh, I heard the comedy show here.
Yes.
They're not from any place in particular. But you don't really get laughs. But I think comics who are in it for a couple months will kind of soon realize this. Maybe it takes a little longer, but like a scoff or like a chuckle at an open mic is like a full laugh at a show. So you just kind of got to judge on that end. Like, yeah, at an open mic, it's real easy to get silence. Like you have to work your ass off to get a laugh or just be good.
Wasn't it more about then at that point? Is it more about just practicing your material, like really just kind of getting it out there, seeing how it sounds out loud?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Yeah. You
hear it aloud. You can hear because you can kind of gauge faces. Like, oh, I'm rambling a lot on this part, or oh, and if you're kind of someone like Jerry Seinfeld, just why do I keep going back to him? But
You love
I
him.
guess I like him. I don't. He's not my favorite comic, but for some reason I
him,
keep.
Brandon. I don't know. Maybe you think about that. Maybe he is your favorite comic.
I don't know. I think I just heard an interview with him, but yeah, you see your bits and you go, okay, I spent way too long between laughs.
Yeah.
So that's something you hear at an open mic. On paper things are funny, but then you have to bumble it out loud, and you're like, okay, I've spent too long without a joke. That's another reason.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to lose the momentum. It's timing. Obviously, it's all timing.
Yeah,
momentum.
Exactly.
That makes sense. I know. I had friends tell me that it also, because like some of us are singers, spoken word. He goes, you can actually, in comedy, you can win them back. It's kind of a weird thing. Like, so you bomb, so this part doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
But there's always that chance.
There is always a chance.
Okay, that makes sense. The laugh is coming. Next,
I wish I could sing. I wish I was a singer. God damn it. I wouldn't do any of this bullshit if I could just sing. God, it depresses me anytime someone's like, I can sing. I'm like, oh, wow, cool. Live my dreams.
I won't say anything. Oh, see, here's the thing. Here's what's so crazy because I can go on stage and do a singing bit or a spoken word bit and have no problem. I go on stage and host a show, no problem. And those things are hard too. I tell all the time, it's like, anything in front of an audience is not the easiest thing in the world, period. And you should be a little nervous. I'm always a little nervous when I go out there. I'm not like deathly afraid, but I'm always a little nervous.
Right.
Because you're in front of people and everybody is coming there with whatever they're coming there with.
Mm-hmm.
The car blew up over here, or I got a fight with my girlfriend over here. Like, there's always whatever they're coming to that moment. It's all coming into the building or the space wherever you're at. So we all when we're standing there, we got to deal with all of that first, and then you have to use your voice. Like your voice has to work. I remember I was doing a spoken word thing before coronavirus, and my voice cracked. So I like a comedian, I go, so my balls have just dropped. I'm now, and I laughed.
See, that's how you handle it.
Yeah, it's like, it was kind of like, I was like,
spoken word would scare me more than stand-up because your goal isn't to be funny. Your goal is to, move? Like, I can't even, to move people? Like, to make them feel something that's like, I don't know. The laughs is why I do stand-up. Like, I love hearing laughter. I love the knowledge that something I've come up with has made people laugh. But like, to go out there and like, I see great like spoken word stuff. Sometimes the clips will go viral and I'll watch it and be like, wow, that was great. That was moving. But like, to go out there and be like, man, hope I make someone cry.
Yeah, I know. Now you say I've never thought. I guess that is that. We're
the opposite of stand-up.
Yeah, it is. You're right. It is. That's so funny. But then also there's some comedy spoken word. I guess there's a little bit of everything. But it's funny you say that. We are trying to invoke certain emotions that we hope they relate to. You're right. It is kind of different. But we're like hoping that when I say this piece, you will all get it, relate to it, and react to it the way I'm hoping you react to it. It's a little more different than just comedy.
Yeah. And it is kind of like stand-up in that you have to make them relate to it. Like, there has to be relatability to you. It's just so interesting. I don't think anyone does this, although, there had to have been one person. But I'm playing around in my head with the idea of someone who's at home writing their next spoken word piece like, this is going to make him cry.
That's me.
There's not enough sadness these lines like the way I would do. There's no laughter. Like, there's not enough sadness.
That kind of is how we do that. But I know for me, because I have this big, deep voice, and usually any lineup, I have the deepest voice out there. So I know I have to be careful not just to rely on my voice. Because I know my voice gets people in first. When they hear me speak, when I first say the first couple of words, they're like, that's men, women, everybody, dogs, cats, everybody's just like, who's that? And I know that I have a powerful voice. But then the pressure is backing it up with something. So I can't just. I could go on stage and go, banana, watermelon, peach, apple. I could do that, but that's nothing. That means nothing. I'm just naming off fruit. I need to have something that actually, goes with the fruits. Watermelon, not for me. Peach, not for me. It can be dumb. It sounds dumb, But it's kind of like
that sounded good. I was in.
You're it.
It sounded like you were leading to something. Good.
I
I
could
was
have
like, we're about to find what's for him. There's going to be something for him.
actually, I could.
The end of systemic racism. That's for me.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good, actually. Hey, okay, so I guess I could, but I bet just the story. It's like I have a voice. I can't be lazy and rely on it. I can't just be lazy. I have this nice deep voice. That's great, but then I could be just rambling on for 5 minutes, and they're going, "What the fuck did he say?" I mean, his voice is great, but what did he say? So I gotta make sure I say something that matches my voice, that actually matches the emotion. I guess that's
That's so interesting. I mean, I think that's what any good performer should do. I mean, they say it kind of like metaphorically, but also literally right to your voice. Like, some people who have like a very silly voice, it's let's just be honest. Like, you just like telling a sob story is not going to work when you're like, like if that's your voice, like I'm not going to feel bad for you, and I know that that's wrong, but it's just like I'm going to be in my head like that's such a silly voice.
totally. No voice.
It's like when a kid tells.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, it's like when a kid tells you like their problems. They're like, and then went and he said, and in your head you're like, you're adorable. Nothing's wrong.
You're so cute. You're just so cute.
You're just so cute. They're so cute.
Yeah,
I bet he did bully you.
But like little chihuahuas, I'm always like, I always talk nice to them because it's like the big dog. Like, I'm like, hi baby, hi little baby, you're so cute. Like they're saying that what they're saying in English is, and they could talk, is like, fuck you, motherfucker. If I get through this game, I tear your foot off. That's what they want to say to you. Don't call me cute. Don't call me adorable. Yeah. I'm trying to get you. So I did.
I'm being serious.
Exactly. I'm being serious. Like, yeah, I'm gonna get you. So I laugh at that. So I know that feeling. I laugh at them going, yeah, that's kind of funny. I'm like, yeah, I'm being kind of smart ass to you because you're a little chihuahua. But yeah, that's what it sounds like with certain voices. And you do. And there's folks that we know who have these weird voices. They made like Fran Drescher, and they made it work for them. They found a way. They found their voice.
She knew her voice. She figured out how to use it in a way that was both charming and grating.
It's at the same time. Yes, exactly. she made it happen. So I mean, there's folks who do that. So I agree with that. I could talk to you forever, Brandon. I could talk to you forever. You have to come back on.
Absolutely.
Again.
I would love to. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. Same here. And so tell folks where they can find whatever you're doing. I mean, I know you're not doing much right now, but what are you doing?
I'm not doing much, but if you want to physically find me, I'm on Twitter and Instagram at @ThankBrandon. Couldn't be more simple than that. I don't post much, so I'm not going to clog up your feed, especially without the podcast. I mean, I have nothing to say.
I missed those pictures. I missed the pictures.
I do. I miss photoshopping those ridiculous photos.
Oh my God, they're hilarious.
Follow me. There's an archive of them, and I love mine with yours. Yours was one of my favorites.
Oh, so good.
I think yours was the one I put work into because I was like, man, this hair is not matching my skin.
It was so good. Oh my God, they're so funny, folks. They're so funny, and I always comment on them. I always comment on them.
Yep, I love it. I always see it. I'm like, yes, someone cares.
I do care. I care. And folks, you can follow me where all James Lott Juniors are at James Lott Jr. everywhere. Twitter, it is now James Lott Jr. 1 because I was hacked because someone posted porn on my page. Actually,
those motherfuckers.
I know. Four.
Someone did it on my page almost for 2 years.
Yeah, you did. Right, exactly. How dare he do that? So yes, but I have a new Twitter account. It's James Lott Jr. 1. I'm on TikTok, folks. I'm on TikTok. James Lott Jr. Apparently I'm a star there for some weird reason. I don't know. I just talk on there. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. But I'm on there. And of course, this podcast is everywhere where podcasts are streaming. Everywhere, literally from Deezer to Spotify to Pandora. To just type it in, you'll find it. James Lott Jr. And everyone, please stay safe. Try to stay sane. Have some laughs. And wear a mask.